Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining our diagnostic training session today. Now, if you have any questions throughout the session, if you're joining us on Zoom, just look at the top of the bottom of your screen. Wherever your Zoom controls are, you should see a little button that says Q&A. Click on that, type in your question, and I'll get to those at the end of the session. If you're watching along on YouTube, just feel free to use the live chat function if you're watching live and just put something in the chat, and I'll get to it at the end. If you're watching after the fact, of course, you can always leave a comment under the video as well. So my name is Jason Gabrinas. I'm one of Snap-on's National Diagnostic Technical Trainers. Been in the training department the last 11 years or so, traveling around North America, helping techs and shop owners get the most out of their diagnostic equipment. Before I did that, it was a couple of years as a diagnostic sales rep with Snap-on. So I had about 30 different franchisees I worked with, as well as the shops that they service in order to help everyone get the most out of their diagnostic needs. Then before that, it was 8 years at Subaru. So worked in a dealership, and over time, I guess, became the default diag guy in the shop. So I was ended up with the drivability problems, the intermittent problems, the weird wiring problems that would show up on those cars. And that's really where I cut my diagnostic teeth, was trying to figure out all those weird head scratcher type cars that would come into my bay. Then before that, bunch of other miscellaneous wrenching jobs. Been a little over 25 years under hood experience for me. So our topic today is after the repair reflashing. So this is the final. If you've been following along over the years, we've split up the after repair series, and this is really the last one in the series, because there are multiple things that may need to be done after the fact, after you replace an item on a vehicle. For example, maybe an ECM you need to replace, and then you need to write software to that ECM. But I will tell you, it can be a complex beast when it comes to that, and we'll try and help you out as much as we can with that. And part of it starts with just defining the terms of what we're talking about, because if you think about it, if you look at any of these terms on the screen, likely these bottom three here, coding, programming, and flashing, or reflashing in this case, these I have seen in the industry just get mixed up, and one's called the other thing and the other thing's called the other thing. And they really are different things, different operations that you would normally do with the vehicle. So in this case, we are focusing, of course, on reflashing the vehicle, but let's talk about what the differences are between these to get there and kind of define what each of these means so we're not confusing them, down the road. So first one's going to be resets. And resets are probably the most simple thing that you can do. It's a simple, almost a bidirectional control that you can do with pretty much any scan tool out there. Resets are used to reset a parameter back to factory specification. For example, oxygen sensor heater. I got a heater that learns, and it increases the amount of current flow through that heater circuit in order to get it to heat up as it ages. Once I replace that oxygen sensor, I'm going to need to reset that heater circuit back to factory specs. Otherwise, I'm going to have an issue down the road, usually not that far down the road. Also, transmission shift adaptive is another good example. So as modern transmissions, as they go down the road, they learn how you drive, and they adapt their shift points based on how you drive. And you may need to reset those back to a factory setting as well when you do any transmission work, for example. So in this example, we have our 2016 Tahoe that we always talk about. And this is an oxygen sensor heater learn reset. It's a very simple thing to do. I just click on that little reset button and it resets, and I'm done. Very quick, very simple. Next one's a relearn. It's going to be a little bit more involved than, say, just a simple reset on a screen, but relearns are used to teach the ECM. The ECM is relearning, learning again, right? It's used to teach the ECM parameters of a replacement part. For example, throttle body relearn. Just actually talking to Keith about this earlier today. On a vehicle, you do a throttle body relearn. Even if you just so much as clean the plate off, you do usually have to do a throttle body relearn, because the vehicle now forgets and needs to know where the open and close minimum maximum are, so we're not breaking things. And we're opening it, if we say we're opening it 100%, we're actually opening 100%, not 95% or whatever. Valve body relearn goes along with the transmission work I talked about earlier, if you do any work with the solenoids or anything. Or tire pressure monitoring system, that's considered a relearn too. The vehicle's learning where those tires are in relation, relative space around the vehicle. In this example, is on a 2012 Nissan, and that is for the idle learn, right? But it's idle air volume learn. Make sure that all of the following conditions are satisfied. Learning will be canceled if any of the following conditions are missed for even a moment. So these are very important. So this test in particular can be very, very picky as to what's going on with the conditions of the vehicle. So you need to make sure all of these are met. I'm not going to read through them all because this really isn't the topic today. But just be aware that if you're doing a relearn, not a reflash, reflash has some specifics that need to be carried out as well. And we'll get to that. But make sure you read everything that's on the screen. This is going to be a running theme for any of these things. Read what's on the screen. Read what the manufacturer is instructing you to do. That way you'll have a much better experience. So I would just go through that, follow the directions, and then go through. In this case, it says once the conditions are met, select continue, and then go until it says test. Very simple. All right, that goes through the test, and it would then complete. Now we get into where we get the confusion starting. So coding. Some OEMs consider coding kind of a part and parcel of flashing. Other manufacturers don't. I think by and large, industry wide, we need definitions for these things. So my proposed definition for this would be a coding is used to teach the ECM parameters by using a code number. So I have to type some sort of a number in. So for example, fuel injector coding. I replace a fuel injector on many vehicles nowadays. You need to put some sort of a code number in there. It could be 6 digits, 8 digits, whatever. That you need to type in because that'll tell the computer what the flow rate is. Or popular with FCA vehicles, proxy alignment as well. So that's technically a coding because it's copying a code out of another module and coding it into a different module. Next one's programming. So programming, here's where I see a ton of confusion between programming and flashing. Because once again, OEMs call programming flashing, flashing programming. It's a lot of confusing the terms there. But when it comes to programming on a lot of different vehicles, it's used to change the ECM parameters, but it's not by flashing. It's by taking a pre-existing set of parameters and changing it to one of the choices. For example, in a body control module, I want to set that all the doors unlock when I hit the fob 1 time versus when I hit it 2 times. That could be a setting. It's a setting on quite a few vehicles out with that. Or whether or not I want my alarm to chirp when I hit and lock it, right? So in this example, this is on my my Forester here in the body control module. We see auto lock time. I want to change it from 0 seconds to maybe 20 seconds after I want it to be able to automatically lock going down. So I'd simply hit edit, and next screen's not there, but I would hit edit, and it would give me a choice of 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds. Choose the one I want, hit program, and then it'll program that into the unit. Now we get to our topic at hand. Now that we've gotten all that up, like I said, there is a lot of confusion. And when it comes to flashing, even the function of flashing can be confusing as well. So flashing, to define this, or reflashing, however you want to call it, flashing is used to write software to the ECM. So anytime I am physically changing the code, the files, the actual software in the vehicle, in the control module, any of the control modules on it. For example, replace a blank module. So if I replace, especially Chrysler is really good about this. So if I buy a new ECM from Chrysler, it is more than likely going to be blank. So then I would need to go into my Chrysler account. We're going to cover a fair amount of this in a little bit. But I need to go into my account and I need to load the vehicle, how it's set up, load the VIN, and then I need to pull the flash files down, and then I need to go through and I need to flash the software onto the module. Otherwise, the module is not going to do anything because it doesn't have any software on it. It's blank. Another example would be software calibration changes. That is very common when it comes to, say, a TSB. So manufacturers decided that, hey, the calibration, it could be another name for the software on the module. I got to update the calibration on that, or I got to upgrade the software on this so something changes. Maybe it's I always go back to Subaru, but Subaru is really notorious for this, right? So a lot of cat problems in the early to mid 2000s. A lot of cat problems on those, and there were numerous recalls and campaigns for, well, the fuel trims are off, the fuel, it's too lean, burning out the cats. So what they ended up doing is you flash it, and then it would update the software, and then actually would richen up the mixture a little bit, so we weren't burning cats out of the cars. And then people would say, "Hey, my mileage just went way down." That's kind of a consequence of that. But because they updated the software, it changed the fuel tables and so on, and changed how the vehicle operates, and that was their fix for it, was to change the software calibration. So usually that's going to be the main two reasons you would be needing to do a flash or reflash on a vehicle. So if I have a blank module, I need to set it up. I got to write the software to it, or if there's some sort of a calibration change needed after the fact, after the repair was complete, then I can go in and do it that way. You will need some equipment, and you will need to understand how to use this equipment as well. So first off, you're going to need a laptop or a desktop. I suppose you could use a desktop as well. Laptop's going to make it way easier just because of the portability aspect of it. But you may need multiple laptops, or at least know how to partition hard drives and make sure the software lives in different areas of the machine. Pretty much any manufacturer I've ever seen only supports Windows. They don't support Mac. They don't support Android. They don't support any other Linux, right? It's Windows only, and usually it's Windows 10 right now. Some of them are starting to sneak in Windows 11, but a lot of them are just still on that Windows 10 ride, right? So you need to make sure you're aware of what the manufacturer requires and what manufacturers you're going to use, because every single manufacturer is different. Every single manufacturer is different. By the qualifications, the cost, the process that they have to do. So a lot of people ask me, well, why don't we write training on flashing using the J2534, using the Pass-Through Pro? The Pass-Through Pro is an interface box, and there's multiple boxes out there. They're all, by and large, they're all made by the same company anyways. So pretty much the pass-through J2534 device is going to be the J2534 device. Snap-on has one. It's called the Pass-Through Pro 4. Other manufacturers also sell them under their own brands, but by and large, it's an interface box. Goes between your computer and the vehicle. Most manufacturers do not allow wireless connectivity to the J box either. Some of the newer J boxes are Bluetooth capable, but some manufacturers, I think we got an example or two in here. Some manufacturers say nope, it's got to be wired, hardwired. Some manufacturers are starting to loosen up on the Wi-Fi aspect of things too. It used to just be, it had to be Ethernet hardwired to the wall in order to not have a dropout. Wi-Fi's gotten a lot better now, so I think a lot of manufacturers have kind of relaxed on that. And another thing that you definitely need is a battery maintainer, and not just a battery charger, a battery maintainer, something that provides clean, constant, steady voltage and current, because some of them have requirements over 100 amps available now. BMW's is pretty high up there. It's like 90 or 100 something amps. So be aware that just at a minimum, just to flash computers on a vehicle, that's what you need at a minimum with hardware. You need a laptop, preferably a dedicated laptop for that, a pass-through device, J2534 device, and a battery maintainer and good internet. So let's take a look. I just updated this this past week. I went through and found as many manufacturers as I could. I'm going to tell you there were a couple challenges in there, and I'll show you what that was in a little bit. But when it comes to the manufacturers, they're all over. Most of them have daily. Some of them it's a couple days. Some of it's per download. So I download one flash file and it's going to cost me $75. or one instance of downloading the actual tool or the actual software comes down. Nissan, for example, you have to buy their software outright. And it's $425 to do that, and then $29.95 per flash. Subaru's kind of a weird duck. It's $75 quarterly, and you get all the flash files you need. So they're actually pretty inexpensive when it comes to overall per the against the other OEMs. GM's $45 per VIN, and that allows you to flash as much as you need to for a 24-month period. BMW's $2,700 for the year, but $32 for a day. Chrysler's $50 for 3 days. And then as far as over here, you see we got two other columns here. So diagnostics for dealer diagnostics. You can actually get dealer level diagnostics on depending on the vehicle. Because of the Right to Repair Act, you can get dealer level diagnostics with a J2534 pass-through, depending on the manufacturer. So Ford, for example, limited for 17 and older, but some of them, yes. Dealer level 07 and newer for Chrysler, and so on and so forth. You can see how that kind of goes. And then over here for reflash capabilities, all modules on Acura, all modules 04 and newer, and so on and so forth. So every manufacturer is a little bit different as to what they support as well. So the cost is different, the websites are different, the procedure is different, the capabilities are different from manufacturer to manufacturer. So you really need to do your homework before you want to dive into it. And I know this is going to turn some people off, just the fact that it's this complex, but it is this complex. You need to be able to read exactly the process the manufacturer wants for you. You need to sign up for individual manufacturers' accounts. There's a lot to deal with this. For example, let's just start with Ford. So Ford Diagnostic Software System Requirements. This is right off their website. I just took a snip off their website. Minimum specifications for running Ford is Windows 10 Professional, Internet Explorer 11 or Microsoft Edge. Notice no Google Chrome. 4 gigs or more of RAM, 2.1 gigahertz processor. Windows 7 and 8.1 updating to Windows 10 is not a supported configuration. That's interesting. So if you have an older laptop like I have, and you upgraded it from Windows 7 to Windows 10, they don't support that. So something gets goofy with the Windows software and they don't want it. Recommended Windows 10 Professional 64-bit, 8 gigs of RAM, solid state hard drive, 256 gigs, and so on and so forth. You can see that. Still Windows 7 up to Windows 10 is not supported. But if you have a laptop that meets that specs, and a lot of them would at this point, I mean, 8 gigs of RAM, that's not terribly out of the question for a modern computer. Probably doing pretty good. However, if I want to run Mazda and Ford, can't. At least on the same hard drive partition. That's where we get into the issues, right? So Mazda MMP and Ford FMP cannot be installed on the same computer. You will need to uninstall one of them to use the other. So if I want to use Mazda, you got to uninstall Ford. If you want to use Ford, you got to uninstall Mazda. There are conflicts just because they are the same company, but they're not the same company. So the software is going to be kind of the same, and maybe they share some files, and maybe there's some conflict that happen in there, right? So another thing you need to be aware of. Let's go to, this is BMW. All right, so BMW. Internet access with a download bandwidth of at least 4 megabits per second and an upload bandwidth of 400 kilobits per second required. Oh, power supply, right? Cannot be programmed without an external power supply connected. A power supply with following specifications are required. And then you would have to read that bulletin to find out what it is. But a battery charger is not the same as a vehicle power supply. You need a steady charger like the one I showed earlier, the EEBC 500. Operating system, Windows 10 Professional or Enterprise, not Windows 11. I just snipped this the other day too. Let's see, Java needs Java 32-bit. Even on a 64-bit operating system, I need to run 32-bit Java and then Microsoft.NET Framework version 4.8. The proper ports need to be open. There is a lot of configuration that needs to be done in order to do. This is from Ford as well. So this is where we could have some issues with the firewall, third-party antivirus, Internet Explorer configuration. All of these things can cause issues with even getting it to work. And then you need to make sure that all of these are listed as trusted sites as well. Windows 10, Microsoft Edge browser. There's a lot of stuff to read through. So there's a lot of homework to do. If this is something you would want to get into, you need to do your homework. This is funny. And this is, I would say, par for the course. In my experience with, who do we want to call it now? Stellantis, I guess. Chrysler in the past. Fiat Chrysler. What was it? Daimler Chrysler. Anytime I've ever tried to flash a Chrysler product, nothing but issues. Even the factory tool has issues trying to download the right files. But this was funny because I was trying to register, because you actually can't see how much this costs until you register for your YTech subscription. Actually, if you register one time. But I was trying to register to the actual technical service portal so I could maybe go in and download the software and all that. You can't right now. Maybe you can, but I couldn't, because I went through the whole form that was up above this, and then it says, please check the reCAPTCHA box. When I hit the register, it says, please check the reCAPTCHA box. It gives me an error. The reCAPTCHA box is supposed to be right there. You know that little box you check off that says I'm not a robot? It's supposed to be right there. It's not there. So I couldn't register. These are the things that you deal with when it comes to flashing. And that's why, there are people out there that is the only thing they do. They are really good with computers, and they're really good with doing all this stuff, and they travel around and they do it for anybody else who does not want to deal with this stuff. And it changes week to week, month to month. These specifications can change, and they have to keep up with it. Sometimes the website can go down. Sometimes the software can have a glitch or whatever. There is a lot of stuff when it comes to flashing a vehicle that you may or may not want to deal with. So that's one option. There are people out there that do it. You can do it yourself, but absolutely can do it yourself. You just need to make sure you read what the manufacturer requires, what their specifications are, and all that. Get your computer configured correctly. Or there is also a product that we have that's called the Pass-Through Assistant, which also can help. Now, it doesn't work on every single manufacturer, and that is due to manufacturer licensing agreements. But you can see these are the manufacturers that are covered there. So Chrysler encompasses Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, all that. Ford, GM, Honda, Acura, Hyundai, Kia, Mercedes, Nissan, Toyota, Lexus. So that's all supported for pass-through assistance. Now, there is another thing. There's another wrench that gets thrown at us in this as well. If you want to use a pass-through assistant, or actually really this in a way applies if you want to do this on your own too. Some manufacturers now, just doing a simple reflash on a security adjacent module, like the ECM cluster, something like that, they require NASTIF vetting. So you need a security technician registry. Now, with the pass-through assistant, they have what they call assisted immobilizer reprogramming. So vetted service providers, such as the pass-through assistant, can help complete repair operations that require immobilizer initialization. It can only be performed by a vehicle security professional. So if you're not a vehicle security professional, this is kind of like a light version of that. You can go in and you can sign up for that. And it will allow them to complete the process on the vehicle. So you do, or someone in your shop has to be registered and have that as part and parcel of it. All right. Also coming soon. So this is the first time I think we're actually talking about this in public. Coming soon, there's also going to be an upgrade to the pass-through assistant. So if you already have a pass-through assistant, this will come down at some point in the next couple months. Or if you get a new pass-through assistant in the next coming months and beyond, available now, repair guidance. Because we have discovered, and we kind of already knew anyways, but over time, people using the pass-through assistant realize that, well, maybe the car doesn't actually need a flash. Maybe it needs something else. Maybe your reflash is not going to fix this problem for this person. So now there's also access to repair guidance. So it's an interactive support product for professional technicians that provides background and direction on the repair of unfamiliar vehicle systems. These are OE-trained, brand-specific master technicians that will connect with you via phone call to provide insight and direction on repair of vehicles in question. So in that case, they can also hook to the vehicle and then they can further offer more repair guidance. They can actually hook up with the factory tool on the other end of the line if need be, or they can walk you through how to do functions with your Snap-on tool as well. So this will be coming in, like I said, in the next couple of months. This is late February of 2024, so we'll see this start rolling out Marchish, as far as I know. So this is coming soon. And like I said, if you already have a pass-through assistant, it will be a software upgrade that comes down, and then it will be available to you if you are an existing user as well. All right, so that is my slides. Let's go to the live portion. Switch. So a couple resources for you. Let's talk about. So like I said, there's a lot going on with this. So we could go right to pass-through assistant right from here, and that'll bring us to the pass-through assistant page. So this is diagnostics.snapon.com, by the way. So we go to the pass-through assistance. There's some walkthrough videos to tell you how it works. There is a customer agreement required to activate the service. So you click there and it'll activate the agreement. Also in the resource center, there is a capabilities and costs document. So this just got updated beginning of January. And this is, by the way, only available in North America. Pass-through assistance only available in North America. I know people watch from around the world. Not available in the rest of the world, just North America. But if we come in here, pass through abilities, capabilities, and costs, we can go through and see what's mine. All right, so BMW tells you what the capabilities are for module reprogramming, updating, and coding, $149 each, $50 for a calibration check. If it has DOIP, which is the Ethernet, it requires a separate cable. O2 and newer, and then body and chassis modules as well. Gives you kind of the coverage there. Gives you the different chassis and what coverage is available. Go through that. Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. Same deal. 4-digit security pin needed for immobilizer stuff. $149 per module plus $30 FCA OE subscription fee. And let's see, so on Ford. $149 for programming, $50 for a calibration check. That's pretty much the case. Temporary credentials for air programming, $45 for NASTIF. That's for your immobilizer. GM, $149 with 50. That's pretty much across the board. That's the deal. Honda and Acura, we actually have a grid of what you can program. 07 and newer is everything. Hyundai, Kia, and so on. Oh yeah, Mercedes is currently unavailable, pending manufacturer discussions. So that's one of the manufacturers you don't have licensing through the pass-through assistant for. Nissan Infiniti. It walks you through it. You can check the document yourself. Just go to diagnostics.snapon.com and then click on the pass-through assistant. Well, from the diagnostic tools page, we can also go to pass-through in general. That will also link you to the pass-through assistant, but also to the pass-through pro. So if we go to the pass-through pro, which I think I skipped ahead there, so I don't necessarily need that. So resource center. So if you need the drivers for it to install it, you can add them there. OEM links is here as well. So in the OEM links, that will bring you to whatever manufacturer you need to go see. So if I wanted to go see the Nissan Tech Info, and then I would select North America for me. And then it's going to give you, key code or immobilizer or Tech Info, different places to go, blank programming, ECM programming. There's your J2534 ECU blank program. So you can click on there and then it gives you the information that you need for that. Right. So it says in this case, you need to purchase the software, $425 for Nissan. Right. So depending on what you need to go through each individual manufacturer's website, set accounts up with individual manufacturers, and so on and so forth. So it's not straightforward. And I think that's the challenge we run into when we talk about training for this, because it changes. I can go in and show you how to do a Hyundai today. Tomorrow, they could, we updated the software and it's totally different. Right. So that's the challenge we run into. So I try and keep it high level as I can, but just with the caveat that there's a lot of homework that needs to be done before you go in and actually do this. Another good resource as well, I've mentioned it before, is NASTIF. So that is the National Automotive Service Task Force. So you can actually go in. It's free for a membership. And then anything further you do have to pay, but there is a free membership, and you actually can go in here and go to automaker info, and then it'll give you your selection of automakers. So for example, let's go to Acura. And let's see, here's an update. Cannot purchase Honda Acura subscription. Unable to purchase key codes. Unable to purchase immobilizer codes in Canada. Module programming information, we can go there, and that'll give us the information as to what you need for that. Right, so it's an excellent resource. You can just go by manufacturer. Oops, I clicked off. Right, so once again, that's a North America information database. Over in Europe, it's going to be different, and you only have J2534 in Europe. This is just kind of starting over in Australia. GM, module programming information. Go in there, and then it's the technical delivery system. So it tells you, SPS and GDS2 and whatever else you might need, tech to win. All that information is there and available, and it tells you the cost. Every manufacturer needs their own account. Every manufacturer, it's a separate cost. So you do have the Pass-Through Pro, which is available. You have the Pass-Through Assistant, which is available. Not gonna be able to do it on an Android tablet. Not gonna be able to do it on anything Apple makes. It's pretty much as we saw. Most of the manufacturers, I haven't found a manufacturer that doesn't require Windows. Put it that way. So maybe there is one out there, but as far as I'm aware, as far as I've been able to tell, there isn't a manufacturer out there that doesn't require Windows. It could be a different version of Java. It could be a different version of Air, but every manufacturer, like I said, is different. Some manufacturers don't play nice together either. So there are options out there. If you want to get into it, just be aware that it is something that's going to take homework. And that's where I'll leave that for today. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week. And it keeps doing this, and that's going to bother me. All right, let's talk about next week. So next week is going to be recycling back to the beginning of this 6-week week of courses. So OEM specific training on Ford. So we're going back on our OEM specific training classes. If you missed it the first time, want to catch it live, that's what we're doing next week. So same time and same place, every Tuesday, 6 and 9 Eastern. Go to snapon.com/OT if you want to join us on Zoom. Otherwise, you can go 6 p.m. Eastern. Class goes to YouTube. youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics. If you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and all those good things. It really helps with that algorithm there. youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics. The 9 p.m. Eastern class goes live to my Facebook page. So it's available over there, facebook.com/Snap-on Jason. If you want to see any of the other topics in this series, they are available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics. There is a playlist for live training. This is episode 83 we're doing right now. So anywhere from ADOS to our OEM specific training we just started this year. If you scan that QR code, that will bring you into the YouTube channel and also subscribe you. So very handy. You can just take a quick snap of that, and that'll get you there. Everything you need. Makes it nice and easy for you. All right, we'll get to questions here in 1 second. I see I got a couple on both sides. So I just want to remind you about my buddy Keith, who also does diagnostics training for free every week. He is on specific scan tools. So Wednesday is on Zeus and Zeus Plus. Thursday is on Triton and Apollo tools. So it goes through the first hour. It's going to be setup and scanner stuff. So things like, let's set up your Wi-Fi. Let's talk about security link. Let's talk about Snap-on Cloud and all that. And then we go through code to completion on Fast Track Intelligent Diagnostics, how that's going to help you out. That's about an hour or so. It takes about a 5-minute break after that. And then he goes through everything in the scope and meter of the corresponding products as well. So lab scope, got a component test, that sort of thing. It's a very thorough class. Keith's been with us for over 30 plus years. Very knowledgeable when it comes to Snap-on tools. So definitely worth your time if you want to learn a little bit more about that. Snapon.com/OT to sign up for that. All right, so look at questions. I know I got one on Zoom a little while ago. Shane Johnson says NERS is now gone. Soon. Not quite. I think it's got a couple months left on it. And like you said, so I just went to Nissan and they still say you got to buy it. So I think that it's consult that you have to buy. And that's been lumped in. But I did see something on their website where it's going away, but it's not quite gone yet. But yeah, good point. That is going soon. Thank you, Shane. On YouTube, Nick is saying hello from the UK. Hello, as always. I know it's late there. Thanks for staying up. Matt Everly says, thank you for Tuesday evening training. Welcome. Thank you for showing up every week. Chris Mashad checking in from New Hampshire. He has a pass-through assistant. Works great. I'm sure it does. Colonel Buckshot says, we have a mobile guy come in for all Chrysler and Nissan flashing. He no longer has any hair or fingernails due to many white knuckle close calls while flashing. Yeah, that's the other thing, too. If anything goes wrong, you might brick a module. So that's why there are people out there, and more power to them if that's what they want to do for a job. There's plenty of work out there, I'm sure. Let's see, Anthony Nofi with the dad joke. So great session tonight. You provided a lot of useful information. We'll program myself to tune in week. Thank you very much, Anthony, as always, for the dad jokes. So with that, that clears the big board. So let me flip through here. All right. Oh, got one more on Zoom here. Eric says, checking from Kansas City, are you coming to Vision? Yes, I am presenting a class at Vision on Saturday afternoon. So if you are going to Vision in Kansas City in February 29th through March 3rd, I will be there on Friday after. I'm getting in Friday afternoon, and then I'm presenting on Saturday afternoon, like 2:30, I think the class is. And yeah, so I'll be there. It's called Data Everywhere if you want to sign up for that, if you don't have a class in that slot. We're going to talk about scanner data for the first part, and then data bus diagnostics for the second part. So it should be a nice, thorough class. So yeah, I will be there, Eric. Come say hi. I will be in the Expo booth. Otherwise, if I'm not presenting, I'll be in the Expo. Come and find me. Say hi. All right. With that, thank you very much for taking a little bit of time out of your day and spend a little bit of time with me. Hopefully, we've not made the waters any muddier on when it comes to reflashing. I just know there's a ton of confusion out there, and there's just a ton of homework that needs to be done if you want to do this yourself. I'm sure you're more than capable of doing it. Anybody is more than capable of doing it as long as they take the time to go through, read, and understand what is required of them in order to flash it. So hopefully we'll see you next week for our OEM specific training on Ford. Have a good night. Have a good week. Enjoy your weekend. Have a good night and take care.